Hello guys, this is CTK Gamer. Today I'm going to show you guys how to play Star Realms, the deck building game by White Wizard Games. I've gone ahead and divided out the piles to explain to you the different cards we have here. So we've got 4 main piles here, and these are the different factions. So starting off with blue, that would be the Trade Federation. They're a faction that mainly lets you regenerate health, and in this game health is actually called Authority. So then over here, the yellow faction is called the Star Empire. This is kind of the tricky faction. They let you force other players to discard their cards. They also allow you to draw more cards. Down here, the green faction is the Blob faction. These are kind of the powerful faction. They do all the damage mainly. They have a little bit of gold. And then the last one would be the red color, and that would be the Machine Cult faction. They mainly let you scrap cards. I think of them as a faction that lets you thin out your deck and purify it. Scrapping a card would be when you remove it from the game, out of your hands completely. So yeah, most of these red cards will let you scrap cards, and they will also have a little gold on them typically. Then over here, some other neutral cards we have are the Explorers. Now, the Explorers are a card that anyone can buy at any point during their turn, assuming that they can afford it. They just produce gold, and when they're scrapped, you can get a little bit of damage out of them. The next card here would be the Vipers. Now, the Vipers, they're a card you're going to start out with. Each person will actually start with 2 of them, and they just do 1 damage, and so they start out in your hands, and you typically want to get rid of them very quickly by scrapping them and getting them completely out of your hand. Here we got the Scouts. Each person will start with 8 Scouts, and they each can produce 1 gold to be spent towards other ships. And the Scouts are again another card you typically would like to discard or scrap as soon as possible. The last cards here are, there's actually 2 for each color. We got blue, green, yellow, and red. Each person will choose a color when they start, and these will mark their health or authority. So to set up, take all your 4 factions, shuffle them into a pile. With games like this, you typically would like to do overhand shuffles. Riffle shuffles will damage the cards and bend them. We don't want to do that. So as soon as the deck is shuffled, you can set it between the 2 players. This is going to be your stack. So now go ahead and take the top 5 cards off the stack and put them in a way that is visible by all players. You can have up to 4 players with the specific set that I have. So you're going to have 5 cards. It's going off screen a little here, so I'm just going to slide them over for you so you can see hopefully everything. Now if you were to have a card that was oriented horizontally, you'd want to turn it over so it's pointing the same direction as the others. So this is the market. You can see all 5 cards laid out, and these are the cards that anyone can buy from during their turn. So then you're going to go ahead and take your Explorers. There should be quite a few of them. No need to shuffle, they're all the same. Just take them and set them to the right of that stack. Next up, take your Scouts and your Vipers. Again, no need to shuffle, they're identical. Each player gets 8 Scouts. The rest can get put in the box. And they also get 2 Vipers. We're going to set up for a 2-player game. Each player will take their cards, shuffle them, and set them in a pile that will be known as their draw pile. take this, set it there for them. The last thing is each player should have 2 of these cards that keep track of their authority. So we'll say blue and green. You can get rid of the others. Everyone starts with 50 health. So I'm just going to quick show you how to mark the health or authority with these 2 cards here. So first off, I'm going to show you guys how to keep track of your authority. So authority is what the game uses to represent the player's health. Each player is going to start with 50 authority. So you're going to have these 2 cards that you're going to use to keep track of the authority. One will be the tens card and one will be the ones card. Now the ones card will have 0 through 9 going from bottom to top, and the tens card will have 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. So in order to represent the number of authority you have, you're going to take your tens card and rotate it so that the number of tens you have is on top. So if you have 33, then your tens card will show 30. If you have 56, your tens card will show 50. Lastly, you'll take your tens card and lay it on top of your ones card so that the top of your tens card is just barely up to the bottom of whatever one you have on the ones card. So for example, let's say that you have a 32. Your tens card is going to show a 30, and you'll position it covering up the 0 and the 1 so that it is just underneath the 2. Now before we get started, I'd like to just explain a couple symbols you might see on a card. So on the upper right hand corner you can see that there is a gold, and in that gold there's a number. In this case the number is 4. So that's just how much it costs to buy this card from the market. Now on the top left it shows you what faction it belongs to, in this case Blob. Now right below the picture it has its main ability. In this case we can get 3 golds, or we can choose to destroy a target base. And I'll explain what a base is in one moment. Underneath that you see the Blob faction symbol again. This is the faction ability. So to the right this symbol means damage, so 3 damage it can do. So what the faction symbol means is that if you have one other faction, Blob faction card in play right now, you can, in addition to the first ability, you can also get 3 damage. After that, underneath that I should say, there's another 2 symbols of Blob, and what this means is if you have 2 or more other cards of Blob faction in play, then you'll get 3 damage. So in this card, if you were to have this Blob out and 3 others, you'd get to choose 3 golds or destroy a target base. You'd also get 3 damage, and you'd also get 3 more damage. So that is just a basic symbols you may see on a card. One other symbol that's quite common to see on the card is a symbol that lets you regenerate your authority. You can see on this card the Frontier Runner. It shows for its action you can get 2 golds, and you can also regenerate 2 authority. And then one last quick thing I'll show you is a scrap ability that you may see on a card. In this case, on the Long Hauler, you see that at the very bottom left it has a symbol in a gray box. Kind of looks like a trash can, but it has an arrow pointing into it. Now this is the scrap ability, and not all cards have them, but if you'd like, you can scrap that card at any time that you have it in your hands or on the table. You can get rid of it, put it in the box, it's gone for the rest of the game. And then now you get that ability though. In this case, the next base you acquire, this turn, put it on top of your deck. So you'll understand that. If you don't understand it now, you'll understand it shortly. So these are the 3 types of cards you might see. You notice one is oriented vertically and the other 2 horizontally. So the one that's oriented vertically is a ship. These are the most common cards you'll see. In this case, this is the Burrower. It's the Blob faction. And ships basically are just something you use in your hand. You'll play them during your turn. You'll use as many abilities as possible, and then you'll put them in your discard pile, so they're gone each turn, whether you use all their abilities or not. So these come and go very frequently. Set that off to the side, and you'll see these two cards that are oriented horizontally. So the one on the left is a base. So the base, you can see here, it has a symbol in the bottom right corner, and it is filled in with silver, and it is a shield with the number 8 in it. So this means it has 8 health, and you can tell it's a base because it is a shield which is filled in. It is not empty. It has filled in silver. So this is a base with 8 defense. You'll also notice during its turn it can attack 5, do 5 damage. If there's another faction, another blob faction card on your table, you'd get another 3. And if there's 2 other cards, you'd get another 3. So you have a possibility of 11 damage with this card. Now the key difference between bases and ships is that ships will go away each turn when you're done with your turn. They'll be put in your discard pile. But bases will stay out until they're destroyed by an enemy. So now we'll go over to the outpost here. There's not a very large difference between outposts and bases. They both will stay out from turn to turn until they're destroyed. The main difference, and almost the only difference, is that outposts protect bases and your authority. So I'm going to quick set this like this. When you have your cards on the table, you have your outposts in front of you, closest to the enemy player, and your bases behind them. So this is to help you remember that your enemy has to destroy all your outposts before he can touch your bases. As soon as the outpost is destroyed, the enemy can choose to attack your base or go directly to your health. And there's no limit on how many outposts or bases you can have on the table. It's as many as you can buy. So in this case we have 50, so we're just going to set cards basically one right below the other to represent 50. And I'll quickly do the same for the other person. So now that that's done, you can go ahead, you've got your shuffled deck here. The first player gets 3 cards. The second player gets 4. If you're playing with the third player or fourth player, they would both get 5. This is the first player, so he's going to get 3 cards. And then the next player is the second player, so he'll get 4 cards. And these are in their hand. As soon as these cards are shuffled, you can go ahead and start the first round. This is what it should look like when you're about to start. You can see we've got the Explorers, the stack, and 5 cards. You actually can't see the 5th there. We've got each player's draw pile, their health, authority, are being marked there. And this player has 3 cards, and that player has 4 cards. So the first player will take their hand, see what cards they have. Looks like we've got 2 scouts and a viper. Vipers are typically a card you like to get rid of as soon as possible. So I'm going to choose to scrap this viper and get it out of here. So just put it back in the box. Left over are 2 scouts. With these I could scrap them. I could just do nothing. I could buy an explorer because that costs 2. Or I could purchase something from the market. I went ahead and turned these towards us so we can see them a little better. And I'm going to choose to buy something from the market. So we're going to go ahead and have a look at what is available for purchase. Looks like we have a burrower. That costs 3, so we can't afford that. We have a Stinger. That is very possible. It costs 1. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And we have another Stinger, which also costs 1. That's the same thing. So let's go ahead and look at the Stinger, the only card we can purchase. You'll see that it has 3 attack, and its faction ability adds another 3 to its attack. If you scrap it, you get 1 gold. I'm going to go ahead and buy this with one of my scouts. And when you buy something, it goes immediately into your discard pile, which is a face-up pile right beneath your draw pile. And whatever you use to purchase it goes in your discard pile as well, so the scout is right beneath it. So let's see what we got left. As soon as you make an opening in the market, you fill it from the top. Here we have an outpost, which costs 4. We'll take a look at that when it's later and possibility to be bought. Start out with, though, we just got our 1, so we'll spend it on the second Stinger, which is identical to the first. I'm putting it on top of my discard pile. And the next card is a base. So we'll spread these all out here. So that's what we've got. Our turn is done, but before the next person starts, you have to take your cards and deal off enough for the next turn, which is 5. After the first round, everyone gets 5. Now, if there were not enough cards in your draw pile, you'd go ahead and take up your discard pile, shuffle it, turn it face down, and then draw the remaining necessary cards. So the first cards would have to come from the discard pile, the draw pile that's already there. If you draw 5, there's exactly 5, and there's nothing left in the draw pile, do not shuffle these cards face down. The reason for that is that you'll be discarding most likely many of your cards from your hands, and they need to go in your discard pile because then they can get shuffled into what will the next turn be the draw pile. So there's a possibility that some of these cards might be in your hand the next turn. But in this case, we did have 2 cards left over, so we're just going to leave those there. We're going to go ahead and see what the other player is going to do. I've made the long journey to the other side of the table, so we can pick up this player's cards and take a look at what we have. 2 Vipers. We're going to actually save these this time just to give an example of attacking. You can see here we have 2 Scouts. If I turn these in, you may not be able to see, but none of these cost 2. The cheapest things are 3. So we can't buy anything with these Scouts. But we can always buy an Explorer, which only costs 2. And you notice the cost 2. Each turn you use it, it gives you 2. So we bought these, so they'll go in our discard pile. We're going to attack with our Vipers. How attacking works is you just choose your target. If there's an outpost, you have to destroy that first. If there's a base after an outpost, you can choose to destroy the base or go straight towards their authority. Now let's say, for example, that you have 1 card that does 5 damage, and there's an outpost that has 4 health. The 1 extra damage does not carry over. It will be wasted. It does not go and attack their authority. Same with splitting up cards. If you have the 5 and you have 1 other thing that you'd like to attack, you want your leftover damage to go towards a base, same thing, it can't go towards it. You can't split up 1 number. However, if there's a card that has 2 separate attack numbers on it, for example this here, the defense system, you'll see its normal ability gives you 2 attack, and its faction ability gives you another 2. You can have these separate. You can have 2 go towards one and 2 go towards the other, but you can't have 3 go to one and 1 go towards another. These are separately listed numbers, so they can go towards separate things, attack separate things. Okay, so they chose to attack with their 2 Vipers. They just go straight to the authority. So I'm going to mark that down to 48. You should know how the marking works from seeing previously. But since these are done, they'll go in the discard pile. And we will draw 5 cards, which will be used next turn. Alright, so back to this person. We'll just quick do one last turn, and this will be with the full 5 cards, just so you get a feel for it. So it looks like we have 4 Scouts and a Viper. We're going to go ahead and scrap this Viper. Put it over there, actually. And we have these 4 Scouts. So looking through here, I'm just going to see what I think is best. I'll choose the Crusher. And we'll put that there. It costs 3. And I'll scrap the extra Scout. Put the new card out there. And my turn would be done. So I have my 2 cards. Now I need 3 more, so I shuffle this pile and take the extra 3. And just for a quick example, actually, we won't move to the other person, but just so that we get an example using a real card here, if my camera will focus. So what you do is you'd play the card, you'd use all of its actions, and then when you're done, you put it in the discard pile. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope this video helped you guys out. It's a pretty simple game compared to certain other games of this type. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll respond to you as soon as I get a chance. Thank you. If you liked this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Go ahead and have a good rest of your day.